Hey everyone, welcome back to Talk Time with JLM Photography, episode 18. This is, let's see here. Yeah, episode 18. Fantastic. My goal is by the 20th episode, hopefully, I will start to get these up on iTunes, Apple's podcast, and Spotify, and that kind of stuff. So that's the goal. I really need to try to do it. I've been kind of being lazy with it and just haven't really done what I needed to do. It's just so easy to do it this way, and now I'm like, now I got to do extra and more, and it's just like, So it's just been YouTube since the start of the year, but I really feel like I could have a little bit of a bigger audience if I can get out to those other platforms. Because not everybody has, the thing with YouTube is doing it on YouTube, you typically have to be watching YouTube for it to play. Unlike with, Spotify or iTunes, you can just let it go. The app will close out on your phone or however you're listening to it. You don't need to actually watch. Not that anybody even is watching this, I would imagine. You're probably just listening to it if you're doing it, but you have to have YouTube open. And so that's a downside. And again, I'm limiting who can actually listen to this. So I really need to just get this out there and get it up onto other platforms so I can maybe broaden that audience just a little bit. So we just got back from vacation, and it was a fantastic vacation. So my anniversary, we were actually doing it to celebrate our anniversary, but our anniversary is actually not till May 15th. But that's kind of a hard time for me to go anywhere the time of the year. Just I've got last minute senior sessions and stuff like that, and so trying to take a week out of that prime time is always a hassle. And I hate doing that. I hate putting the work over, my wife. But I think she understands. And, we just kind of try to figure out when we can do it. Sometimes we do it right after. Sometimes we do it a little bit before. But this time we were able to find a pretty cool little trip. And so it was almost like a 3-in-1 vacation. And I'm not talking about vacation on this episode, but it was fantastic. I am kind of talking about vacation, sort of. So in this episode, what I really like to talk about is, do you unplug? Do you reset? Do you take time off? And here's the thing, and I really, really, I don't know that struggle is the word, but I have an issue with this because I feel like I never feel like what I do is difficult. I never feel like what I do is taxing, what I do is stressful. In the last 5 years, I have never been so stressed at what I'm doing that I need time off. And so, I hear a lot of people say, you gotta relax, you gotta unplug, you gotta step away. And I really have struggled with that because I'm like, man, I absolutely love what I do. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I absolutely love what I do. And it is so difficult for me to set aside time to take off. But I do truly feel like it helps. And maybe not necessarily in all these wonderful magical ways, but I think that it helps it allows you just to breathe. And so what I would just want to say is, are you unplugging? Are you taking time for yourself? Are you stepping away? Are you giving yourself time to breathe? And, this last week, I'll be brutally honest, I didn't fully unplug. Where we were, I was still able to get internet and Wi-Fi. I didn't take my laptop, didn't take my camera, didn't have to worry about doing any editing. I didn't worry about any editing that I hadn't done. That I needed to do. Didn't worry about any YouTube videos, podcast, anything like that. I was able to, I tried to, I'm addicted to social media. I just am. But I really tried to limit how much I was actually on there. We're on vacation and I want to spend time with my wife. And so I really tried to unplug. So I'll say I actually semi-unplugged. But it still works. It still worked for me. And so really that's kind of where this is are you taking that time for yourself? Are you stepping back and allowing yourself to breathe? I think there is definitely some pros to it, but I'm going to give you one of the big cons to it, and one reason why I struggle with it. All the way back in episode 1, episode 2, I talked about how I shot from 2010 to 2012. And then I basically quit for like 5 years. And I really kind of picked the camera back up in late 2017. I feel like I am so far behind where I could be that I don't want to step away. And so that's one of the big struggles with me wanting to take time off. Even if it's just a week, I just really struggle with putting the camera down and not doing any photography work related anything. My fear is, and I know that it's not going to happen after just 1 week, my fear is that if I put the camera down for an extended period of time, I'm not going to pick it back up. I know that's an unsubstantiated fear. It has no real hold or anything like that because I know I'm going to pick it back up. But that's just my fear. And, so here's the other thing about my personality. And I think only in photography am I a self-starter. And that's this version of me. That's not who I used to be. Before I wasn't that way. But pretty much in every other aspect of my life, I'm not overly motivated. I'm not a self-starter. I actually procrastinate quite a bit. I put things off. And so part of that fear is if I set this stuff down for an extended period, it's slow for me to get back into it. So here's the other example. We did our cruise, our very first cruise the beginning of this year. Like I think it was January 31st through the 7th or something like that. But before that, you have the Christmas lull. And so, I pretty much put the camera down right around the 20th of December. And so from the 20th of December to like the 7th, when we got back from vacation, I actually didn't shoot at all, which is extremely strange and extremely rare for me. And I don't remember actually when my first session of January was, but it wasn't like the 8th. But it really felt slow for me this year in January. I just could not get back into the groove for quite a while. It probably wasn't until about March that I felt like things were moving the way that I'm used to them moving. And so I think that's my fear. That's the con to me, my own personal con to me of unplugging, stepping back, breathing. I don't know that that's for everybody, but that's for me. But if you're like me, then that is a fear, and I think it's a good fear to have. Are you going to be able to jump back into it and get things rolling again? But I think there are so many positives to it. I think the positives far outweigh the cons. I think it's good to relax. It's good to step away. I haven't really fully realized until probably this year how much time I actually do spend doing photography related things. For instance, the Sunday before we left, just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we did church in the morning, and as soon as church was over, I was editing. And I edited all day until we went down and laid in bed at like 9:30 at night. So all day, literally just editing photos. Now, as a bunch of photo sessions, trying to get a lot of them done before we went on vacation, but all day. And I didn't finish. And so then Monday, I had to actually continue, and it was about half a day, literally from like 9 o'clock in the morning until probably 3 or 4 that I finished. Now, the problem is I'm not getting up and I'm not doing a lot of extra stuff. I'm just literally sitting there the whole time. That's not real good for your mind, your body, your health to do that, and I noticed more this year that I do that a lot. I'll just sit there and edit and edit and edit. And if it wasn't for my German Shepherd forcing me to get up and do stuff, it would be easy for me to just sit there all day. Now, again, that's not hard. That's not stressful on my mind. That's not taxing, but it's not good to just sit there and do that. Looking, it's not good for your eyes. It's not good for your back. It's not good for your legs. You've got to be able to get up and move around. And I think what the driving force is a lot is, as photographers, as artists, we love what we do. For the most part, I think we truly love what we do, and it's not really work to do what we do, but then it is work, and it does tax. It taxes your eyes, it taxes your brain, it taxes your body to just sit there and do that stuff a lot. And I think being able to step back and get off of all of that for a week at a time is good. It just is good. It was nice to be able to, like, hey, I don't have any photo shoots coming up. I don't have to worry about that. I shoot a lot, especially this time of year. Basically from like mid-February all the way through mid-June, I'm shooting pretty much every day. And that's not just for YouTube. That's regular shooting. That's me having a job to shoot. And it is busy, and it's fun. I absolutely love it. And that's what I really struggle with. Like, but I don't want to take the time off because I'm having a good time doing it. And my wife, a lot of times, she's like, Jason, you don't realize how much time you're spending on this. And, she puts in a lot of work. I think she puts in like 12, 14-hour days sometimes with her job. And so I kind of tell her the same thing. But it really can start to weigh you down. And I think it's important, especially if you're married, or you have a family, is you need to make time for them. And that's where the unplugging really helps, is you're pushing so much, and probably your spouse may have a job too, and they're doing the same thing. And how do you make time for yourselves, right? How do you make time for your family? Quality time, not just, hey, honey, how are you? What's for dinner? That type of thing. Or I'm making this for dinner and, blah, blah, blah. That's not necessarily quality. It's nice that we're still come home, same house, same bedroom, that kind of thing. But quality time. And so if you're just constantly doing this, even though you absolutely love to, even though it doesn't feel like work, it still takes away time for yourself. It takes away time for your spouse. It takes away time for your family. It takes away time for things that you need to do. Things around the house, exercise, hobbies. Man, I'm struggling right now because I don't have a hobby. I used to play baseball, like over 35 men's baseball. And it was so fun to be able to do. I don't actually have time for that anymore. I truly don't. And my eyes have kind of gotten to the point where I played in the outfield. And so it was hard for me to I finally started realizing playing without the glasses, and I struggle wearing contacts, but I was having a hard time picking up the ball from the home plate to center field. And so I really just kind of was like, I think it's time for me to go ahead and quit. Hang up the cleats, right? I don't really miss it, but I know that I don't have any other hobbies. My hobby at that time wasn't baseball. My hobby at that time was picking up the camera every now and then, maybe flying a drone every now and then. But that's not the case. So right now, my only other hobby, I think, would probably be cycling, and that's more exercise. I don't know that I would consider that a hobby. So, that's something that I basically have kind of lost over the last 5 years, is something extra to do to take my mind off of photography. I think one of the other things that really is a downside to not stepping back, not taking time off, is I think you get to a point where maybe you lose a little bit of that creative edge. Everything is the same old. It's, hey, it's a senior shoot. It's a senior shoot. It's a senior shoot. I feel like I'm able to kind of eliminate that a little bit. Having the YouTube channel, being able to work with dancers, it kind of changes it up enough to where I don't feel like I have that. But I think for some people it can be. If that's all you're doing day in, day out, maternity this, family that, maternity this, family that, I think it can get kind of mind numbing, and it doesn't allow you to express that creative inner whatever it is. Where photographers, we need to have that creative outflow. And I think when you just do this day in and day out without having that break, without unplugging, without breathing, without that reset, it's just easy to kind of fall into boredom, I think, with your work. And so you have to limit that. Breathing, resetting, unplugging, I think it's a very important thing that we need to not necessarily take lightly. The hardest part, I think, about the unplug is the fact that we actually love what we do. Like I said, I don't ever feel like this is work. I don't ever feel like this is hard. It's not, physically, yes, it can be a little bit demanding. I shoot a lot of dance stuff. And so the dance for me, I typically shoot low. A lot of times I'm sitting. So the sit up, the get up, or the sit down, the get up, the sit down, the get up, so physically taxing, as you get older, sure. But it's not super physically demanding. I mean, it's just not. But without that break, I just think that it's easy to fall into a systematic feel to your work. And I think that's something that we need to stay away from. It's something that we need to definitely be aware of. And I think that's very critical, is being aware of the fact that, hey, I've been doing this for now 2 years and I've only taken 3 days off type thing. You can't do that. You got to take more time off. My wife loves to go on vacation. She actually very much so differently than me is, her job taxes her mental state. Like it's a high functioning type job to where she really needs to like unplug every time she comes home from work, where I don't feel like I need to do that. So for her, that vacation is just a very nice way for her mind to kind of relax, fall back in, reset, recharge, where I don't feel like I need that as much, but I'm quite certain that I need it just as much as she does. And I think we all do. Just because we love what we do doesn't mean that it's any less hard to do. I think it's actually harder, if you truly love what you're doing, to step away because of that love that you have, because of that desire to create. It's so pushing. Whereas I think if you're in a regular 9-to-5 job, I don't feel like that's that hard to be like, yeah, I'm taking a vacation. This is something that I've got to do because I need a paycheck. Whereas for photographers or creatives, this is something that we love to do, and we feel like it kind of like is that heart's passion, that push. You've got to do this. So that's really the basic thing for this podcast episode is just stepping away, unplug, relax, let your brain reset, breathe. It's important to breathe. It's important to kind of get that little reset, and that let those creative juices start to flow again with a recharge. Maybe they're still there, but they are probably draining a little bit. So let them recharge. Take some time. Find some hobbies. Get some things that you can throw in there that you can offset. You don't necessarily maybe need to do a full week-long unplug. Maybe you can unplug for a weekend, or something like that. A short, like a 2 or 3 day type break. Maybe figure out how you can. My wife tells me all the time, pick a day, any day in the week, it doesn't matter, and just do nothing photography related. Man, that is such a struggle for me. I'm like, can't do that. If I'm sitting there watching TV, why wouldn't I be editing photos? So that's just like a complete disconnect for me for what I probably should do. And what I probably should do is do the exact same thing that she's saying. Find a day in the week that I don't do anything photography related. And maybe that's the challenge for you, is to do that same thing. Whatever it is that you're doing, if it is photography, which I'm sure most people that are listening to me are photographers, but pick a day. Find a day that you can do a complete unplug, a complete, break, breathe. Let your mind relax a little bit more. And maybe it's that longer one that you need. Take that break, that long vacation, get some quality time in. Enjoy your family, enjoy your spouse, enjoy your animals, whatever it is. But you still need a break. Even if you absolutely love what you're doing, you still need to find a way to step back and step away and get that little break. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. This is episode 18. Like I said, I'm going to try to get this thing hosted by the 20th episode onto other platforms. That way people can actually just listen to it and don't have to have the YouTube app open to listen to the podcast. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And make sure you check out the YouTube channel. I've got new videos coming out every Wednesday and new podcast every Tuesday. And until next time, keep shooting.